Hi everyone, welcome to Sarah Lynn Stamps, Cards and Coffee, Wednesday at noon. I try to come on here every Wednesday at noon to share a simple, quick card with you that we can make in 15 minutes or less. Sometimes we miss our benchmark, but I think we do pretty good. So anyways, thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, you have found Sarah Lynn Duque. With Sarah Lynn Stamps, you'll find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of the places. And here on Facebook, doing our lives. I also wanted to just share with you today a beautiful stamp set called the Fresh Cut Flowers. And one of the reasons I wanted to share this with you is one, I'm a little tired of making Christmas cards. So we're going to do something here with some florals, a fresh cut flower set. But also this beautiful set has a set of dies that coordinates with it. It doesn't come with it. It coordinates with it. It has such beautiful dies. And right now this die set is in the clearance section for $13.40. So it is beautiful. If you have purchased this stamp set previously, you won't find the dies in our catalog, but they were part of a special back in, I want to say September. I'm not 100% sure which month, but now the dies have made their way to the clearance section. So make sure you grab those to coordinate with this beautiful stamp set. And I'm going to give you a really nice, easy idea of how to use the stamp set today. And of course, one thing I forgot to bring was a block. So here you can see I have all of my stamps in here. This one has already got the sticker on it. I haven't even put stickers on the other ones yet. Can you believe that? But anyways, we're going to go ahead and do that. So this is quite a large stamp. And so I've got which block is this? I want to say E. It's an E block. And I just like to lay my stamps down, especially if they're larger, and then pick them up with my block. Okay, so see, it just barely fits on there. Today, because we're going to do some very, very simple watercoloring, I'm going to be using StazOn. StazOn ink is a permanent alcohol-based ink, so it doesn't run or bleed if you're doing watercoloring, and this is the ink that you're going to want to use if you're doing watercoloring. So because my stamp is large, I'm actually taking the ink to the stamp. I've got my stamp down on my work surface, and I want to make sure I get it nice and inked up. And you kind of use the same sort of technique if you're using your Stamparatus, which is our large positioning tool. I have a piece here, basic white, that I cut out with our contour dies, and I'll show those to you in just a moment, our scallop contour dies. And this is going to kind of just overlap a little bit here. We're going to put it on just like that. And I'm just going to hold it here for a second, give it a little bit of a push. And then lift up here. Now we've got our flowers on there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is do a little bit of watercoloring. So today I'm going to use the watercolor pencils. We have two different assortments. We have our first assortment here, which has 13 different colors, including Whisper White, which I love for so many different reasons. We're not going to use it today, but if you look back at my videos on YouTube for the whitewash technique, you'll see a really nice way to use the Whisper White. But these are just some of your basic colors. You've got reds, greens, yellows, oranges, blues. And then we've got some more additional colors here in our second set, which comes in a set of 10. And so it really, when you're watercoloring, yes, it's important to have a similar color, but because the water kind of bleeds out your color a little bit, it's not going to look exact to the color. It's going to be sort of a different tone than maybe the exact color. So it's maybe not as pertinent that it's the exact same color, but close to, in the same family, I would say. So today I'm going to be working with Sweet Sorbet as a color for the card base. And I might sneeze here, so if I do, I apologize ahead of time. You know when you can feel that sneeze coming on, but it's just not quite. Anyways, I think I'm going to use the real red. I want to kind of keep this monochromatic a little bit. It wouldn't have to be. You could use any color that you want, but I think I'm going to use the real red out of here. And then I'll use the old olive green out of the same set here. And is this the old olive green? Yeah. So we're going to just use those two colors today and keep it really simple. So all I'm going to do is really just kind of roughly color my flowers here in the red And I'm going to go back in after and add more color to the areas where I want more color. But as you can see, I'm just really kind of scribbling some color onto the paper. I'm not doing anything really overly exciting. There's no special coloring technique. I'm really just putting ink, not even ink, crayon to paper. So this is a pretty simple thing. And this would actually be a great thing for you to get or to do with your kids, because kids could really do this simply. They could either just color in the stamps, or they could do this watercoloring technique too, depending on their age and on their interest levels. So, okay, so we've got some of this red here. I'm just going to add a little bit here into these little kind of heart-shaped flowers that's in the middle. And then I'm going to go back again with my red. I'm going to just add a little bit heavier color to the bottom here of some of my petals here. And that's just going to kind of, when I watercolor, that's just going to kind of darken up those spaces. Okay, so we've got that kind of done, and probably right here in the middle, I'm going to want it a little darker too. Okay, so let's go back and do that again to some of the bottom of these flowers or petals. It's going to kind of add a little bit of definition between our petals by doing this. Okay, and then we're going to go up here and do the same thing. So we're just really coloring a little bit of extra dark crayon into those areas. And I've got my little ink thing that's just shaking in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. All right, let's take our green, and I'm just going to color in some of our leaves here. I'm not going to do all of them. Mostly for time. You could go down your stems and all of that as well. It's really up to you how in depth. And once you kind of get practiced at this technique, you could use multiple different colors of our watercolor pencils to add a little bit more color and a little bit more definition to your leaves and stuff. I'm really just making the simple one because we're here on Cards and Coffee today, where we keep things fairly simple. But I want to just kind of give you a general idea of a really easy way to watercolor. If you're new to watercoloring, it's often something that people find very intimidating, but this is a very simple way to go about watercoloring. So I'm going to add a little bit of dark here where the veins are on my leaves. And I'm going to darken up sort of this part that goes to the flower, I think. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. You just kind of eyeball it, add a little bit of color here or there. I think I already did that, did I? I don't know. And then we'll go up here. Okay, so now to make this look watercolored, I mean, you really wouldn't even have to. You could just color like that. I don't even think it's that bad. But I have here blender pens. So blender pens come in a set of 3, and they have 2 tips on them. So this is just actually a really great product to share with a friend, because I had some of these for more than 20 years. They just lasted and lasted and lasted, and there's so many ends on them that are all the same. So basically inside of here it's almost like a marker that has clear ink in it. So you can kind of use this for a number of different techniques, and whatever color, whether you can pick up ink off your ink pad, you could use it tip to tip with a marker, or you can use watercolor pencils like we're doing here today. And it's going to use whatever color you have on the brush. It's going to use that color. So it's really, really versatile. So if you don't want to put in the expense to, say, purchase all of the different colors of markers, etc., this is a really great option for you, because you can get all of the colors from one pen. All you need is the ink color or the watercolor pencil, etc. So this is just a great option. So as you can see, I'm really just pulling the ink from wherever I've placed it, pulling it into the whiter spots. Now, one of the things you want to remember when you watercolor is to make sure you leave some white areas. That's really important. That gives it the watercolored look. Now, if I want to change colors, or if I'm feeling like my pencil or pen is getting a little bit too saturated with color, all you're going to do is color off onto a scrap paper, and you can see the color is gone. And then you can start a new color, or you can start over. So I found, I'm going to start with the dark here and just kind of pull it out a little bit, because I found that my dark was kind of pulling out a little bit farther than I wanted it to, because I was getting a lot of color onto my brush. So I'm going to start with the dark areas that I did here, and then I'm going to color off, and then I'm going to go back into my lighter areas so that I don't have quite as much color there. And again, I'm going to be very conscious of leaving a little bit of white space. See how lovely that is? Just a little bit of dark here, and you can see over here, I'm going to go back in a little bit. Now, the one thing to remember also about blender pens, though, is that like a marker, if you just keep coloring over and over and over in the same spot, you're going to actually wear a hole in your paper. I don't know if that's ever happened to you before, but it kind of happens just with the whatever is in the markers. You'll find that in any marker. If you just keep coloring over the same spot, you're going to eventually just kind of wear a hole in your paper. So a note to self. So now I've gone and done my darker parts. So I'm going to go and color some of my lighter parts now so that I have a little less ink. And if you find that you sort of miss a spot or you want a little bit more color, you can go back in. And now that, do you see now that I've laid some of the blender pen ink down on the paper? It's really picking up the color. So like I'm going to go back and do that for all of my parts that I've already colored. Now that I've got some of that ink, it's just kind of really soaking up that color really vibrantly. So I think that's beautiful. And I'm going to just, actually what I wanted to do was, color in here. Okay, let's add a little bit of color in here along the bottom. Okay. So you can just keep adding a little bit of color within reason to the areas that you want to add a little bit to. And I kind of want to just add a little bit darker in here to make these kind of pop a little bit more. Add a little bit of definition into the creases there. So just go back in, add a little bit of color into the shaded areas. There we go. Okay. All right. So now I've colored off my blender pen, and I'm just going to go straight into the green and do the same. I'm going to be a little bit less worried about the green, but I am going to attempt to leave some white space or lighter space to make sure that I give it some semblance of watercoloring here. And again, if it's not quite as dark as you like it, you can always go back and add a little bit more color to it. But you see how simple this is? So it's giving you a little bit of a watercolored look without having to fuss so much with the water. Water, it bleeds a lot more, it spreads a lot more. You need to make sure you dry between colors and areas so the colors are going to bleed together. It's a little bit more cumbersome. Beautiful, beautiful technique, watercoloring. But this is going to give you some of that effect without all of the fuss. All right, now I missed a couple spots here. I just want to go back in and color. And I am going to just kind of run this along my stem a little bit here. Just really gently add a little bit of green here for my stem. I kind of lied, I guess, when I said I'm not going to do this because I'm going to just do it fast. But once you get going, I mean, coloring, I love coloring. I mean, some people really dislike it, but I think this is just such an easy way to add so much beauty to your project. Like, look at that. We hardly had to do anything. Let me go back in here a little bit, and I just found that my dark ones in here, maybe I had put more dark onto this flower, just kind of really bled, and I don't have a lot of definition between my colors. Okay, we're gonna stay with that for today. But look at that. Can you see the beautiful watercoloring that we did? It was just so easy and so simple. Yeah. So to keep this really simple, what we're going to do is we are going to place this actually onto, I have got one of the cards from the Tea Boutique Cards and Envelopes package out of the annual catalog. And so it comes already with your pre-printed card bases or patterns. And then the inside's already white, so you don't have to worry about putting in another layer and all of that there. And we're going to just put this on here. So I told you I was going to show you the dies from this set because they're always a favorite and one of my favorites. I think they really are a staple. They're called the Scallop Contour dies, and they do go with another stamp set that I can't contour something or other, and it has flowers in it as well. But my favorite part of this set here are these scalloped borders. So this one cut out this, and as you can see, it also did the detailed of the inside, sort of the dotted border there. And then this one is a really large, it basically will fit the whole front of your card. Again, a nice scallop with cutouts in it. And then here's a smaller size, and they're all a little bit different. This one has like sort of a longer stitched inside, and this one is more of dots around the inside. And then we've got this gorgeous scallop border here that you can cut any piece of paper with. And of course, a couple more smaller ones. And again, they have different designs inside of them for whatever you want to use them for. And then these two specific ones work with the flowers that are in the coordinating stamp set. So, but whether or not you have the flower stamp set, there's so much in this die set to be used with multiple, well, with any of your crafting projects. Like, just beautiful. This would be a really great scrapbooking die set as well, because of the large size dies that would coordinate really nicely with photos and areas to add your writing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to just put this directly down onto my card front today. I'm not going to use dimensionals for this. You absolutely could. You know, I love dimensionals. Oh goodness, that was very delayed, but there's the sneeze I promised you. And I'm going to just set this right here. And then we're going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment. Now this stamp set doesn't have sentiments, and I did not grab one. Let me see what I've got on hand here. That would be easy to stamp with. I think I'll take one of these out of here. Because I like the size. I was trying to find something that's not too big. This would be a great set to substitute for this if you like this card but didn't have the fresh cut flower stamp set. This would be a lovely one. The Simply Succulents would be a nice option to switch up with the stamp set for this project. And I have a scrap piece of paper here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these sentiments out of here. And I think I might just put thanks. Or you've been on my mind. You could just stamp this directly onto your card front, but I think I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I think I'm going to use this nice long one actually that says you've been on my mind. Yeah. Okay, so get another block. I keep my blocks all in a basket here beside my work surface. Okay. So by doing what I just did, picking it up off of my grid paper, I'm trying to make sure that I've got it nice and straight. And I'm going to just use my Stays On again because that's what I've got handy here. You, of course, could do this with Memento because we're not watercoloring. I'm going to just stamp this right on here. And then I'm just going to use my scissors to give it a quick snip out. Okay, so let's cut this off. I am a hoarder of white scraps. I have a bin of like the smallest white scraps because I, need them for everything. And you don't need a big one for many of your sentiments. So it's hard to get rid of that. Okay, so before I cut this anymore, I just want to see, I want this to be a little bit smaller. We're going to cut this down here. I think I'm going to cut both sides just small. We're going to just cut it straight today. We're not going to do any fancy flags or anything on here. But I do feel like I want a little crooked here. And I'm not... A little crooked doesn't bother me, but this one seems really bowed for some reason. Let's see. Is that going to work? That's going to work perfect. There we go. Okay. Now this I'm going to add on with some dimensionals. And I did pull this little piece of ribbon out because I thought it was so pretty. So I'm going to just tie a little bow here into this checked ribbon and see how I like that. See, sometimes we're just kind of playing and figuring it out as we go. I just want a little bow. Okay, let's cut this. I'm probably going to trim this down a little bit more, but I'll just trim it like that. This I'm going to put on with some dimensionals, like I said. We're going to add a couple on here. And if you wanted to step this up, you could emboss your sentiment, I think, on the Sweet Sorbet. Just emboss it on white. That would be really pretty. But I'm just going to actually add that on like that with a little bow. Okay, and for our bow, we're going to use a glue dot because that's always a lot easier with embellishments. Okay. So with glue dots, you're just going to take your embellishment, press it onto the glue dot, and then it comes right off of the paper and you've got it stuck onto your embellishment. So before I stick this down, I just want to see, yep, that's where I want it. See where I want it here. And I'm going to actually pull this a tiny little bit smaller. It's kind of glued down now, but, and then we're going to trim this off. We're going to have just an itty bitty little bow on here. And if you can believe it, I am not going to add any gems on here. We're just going to have a bow today. A beautiful little bow. Anyways, there's our card today. What do you think? Super pretty, right? Super easy, super pretty. So if you ever wanted to try watercoloring and you didn't know how to get started, this is a fantastic way to do that. And you get so many different colors in one package of watercolor pencils that you have everything you need to get started. I really would recommend that you start with the first set first, because the white is something that you absolutely are going to want to have, and you've got all of the colors here that you can use for your projects. And again, the blender pens are really economical. I want to say, I don't have it right in front of me, but I want to say they're around $10. And you get 3 double tipped in here. So you've basically got 6 different markers. They're going to last you forever to start coloring and watercoloring with. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this card. Happy stamping. It's a nice little break from Christmas cards and stuff, doing something a little bit different. So anyways, have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me. Bye.